We will start this panel discussion with a short presentation from Dudu, given by Dudu, and then we will follow up with questions and know-how sharing from Karoline. So it's up to you. Here's the clicker.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thanks for having us here. We're very happy to be in Brno today. Yeah, so I hope you're enjoying all the sessions today. I'm happy to walk you a little bit through the work we're doing. Since the time is limited, I'm going to be super quick so that we have more time to really talk with each other and also exchange with the audience. So what is the Vienna Business Agency? Let me just give you a brief context about what we are doing here in Vienna. So as you can tell by the name, the Vienna Business Agency takes care of business in Vienna. So we are the official promotion agency of the city of Vienna. Let me just...
In the middle.
So we are the official promotion agency of the business location Vienna. What we do is we promote, support, and develop the business location. We do that by providing different fundings, like actual money to deploy projects here in Vienna. We invest a lot into the infrastructure of our business location, and we also provide a lot of free of charge consultancy and networking opportunities to our ecosystem. I personally work for the Vienna, for the startup services of the Vienna Business Agency. So my clients are startups, future entrepreneurs, and scale-ups. And here again, within the startup services, we really try to be as comprehensive as possible. So we try to provide services to the ecosystem throughout their whole life cycle, basically. So we have consultations in order to get them started, but also help them in growing further. And one of our missions in order for the ecosystem itself is definitely to really develop and support an inclusive and diverse ecosystem. And one tool in order to do that, and this is something we'll be talking further in detail today, is the startup grant we have implemented in 2022. It's a 6-month scholarship we're providing to future entrepreneurs, first-time entrepreneurs, in order to really have the luxury of focusing on their idea throughout the 6 months' time. They get a total of 8,000 euros throughout the 6 months, and they can participate in knowledge sessions, mentorings, coachings, and also get the opportunity of being matched with people who have been and done the entrepreneurial game before. The grant is meant for 3 people from the team itself, so it's not only for 1 person per team, but up to 3 people can get it. As mentioned, it was being implemented in 2022, and we have so far 80 projects funded by the startup grant, and out of that, some hard facts about it. So 80 projects, 42% were women. From the startup grant receivers were women. So this is something which is really very dear to our heart, because this is, at the end of the day, tax money. So we are a public institution, so we are responsible to allocating the resources we have equally among the residents of Vienna. So here we really put a lot of efforts in creating equality as much as possible. One of the impacts we have through the grant is definitely how many of the funded projects then at the end get really established in Vienna. This is something which is not measurable directly after the grant itself, so it's not always the case that after 6 months someone decides to start a company, but so far from 22 until now, almost 40% of all the people who received a funding through the startup grant has started their company, and 50% from out of that 40 are diverse-led teams, which is definitely a good number for us and something which somehow motivates us to move forward. These are some examples. One of the grant receivers is today with us, so we'll talk about that later on, so I'm gonna skip that a little bit. So all what we do with the grant is very much focused on people who are already in Vienna, but obviously we also have some opportunities for people from, example, Brno or other regions of Czechia to join us in Vienna in order to experience the ecosystem. So I'm happy that Lakmus was on stage today because she was one of the lucky Vienna Startup Package winners last year. So we do have one opportunity where people can apply in order to come and visit us for 1 month and also experience all of what we do in person themselves, because obviously I can talk hours about Vienna, but it's better if you come and experience it yourself firsthand. And the second opportunity in order to really get the full package in a very intense week is so this is also one of the best practice examples of someone from Brno attending the Vienna Startup Package, Arbo Technologies. The next thing which I would really like to invite everyone here in the room, if you are interested in learning more about Vienna, but also connect to a very global audience, check out the Vienna Up Festival. This is also a great opportunity for internationals to discover what the Viennese ecosystem can have in case of opportunities. So that's me. Happy to talk and looking forward to our conversation now.
Great, thank you for this introduction. The microphone is yours. You will hopefully need it in the next 13 minutes. And maybe I just wanted to add that during Vienna Up last year, we cooperated very closely with Vienna and the South Moravian region and created some common startup activities. So we are very close, our ecosystem, of course. So it has already been said, Karoline, that you've been supported in the startup program. However, I'm interested in your journey. How did it all started when you, during your PhD studies and postdoc, actually decided also to become entrepreneur?
So it actually all started out with a personal need. So my co-founder and I, who's not a scientist, by the way, we both struggled with acne after stopping the pill. And I was also overwhelmed. I'm a scientist in dermatology, and I still didn't know what to do. So I did a lot of research, read a lot of publications, and thought, well, this really has to change. Let's do something with this. So next to my PhD, which is a different topic, it's actually hair loss and skin inflammation, we set out to set out on this journey. And actually the first thing was that I applied to Founders Lab of the Vienna Business Agency. And I got accepted. And that's when I talked to my co-founder, Amina, and she joined too. And then, so this is actually how it started.
So it all started at Vienna Business Agency to connected you with your co-founder and then supported you to start the business. That was the incentive which helped you.
Yeah.
Okay. And how difficult was the transition from researcher to entrepreneur?
So basically doing research and starting a business is quite similar. So you have a project and you just learn by doing. So it's quite similar. And I feel like I'm still a scientist, so I still do research, actually. I try to combine it. But I think what really helped was actually that I was looking for help whenever I needed. For example, I looked for Vienna Business Agency, they had workshops about accounting or financial planning, all of those things that I didn't know how to do. So I think it's really looking for the people who can help you that helped me transition into business.
Great. I was just curious, during your presentation, if you, or how closely do you cooperate with universities in order to empower more people to start their business, innovative, scalable?
I would say as Vienna Business Agency, we really don't have the focus on universities per se, because we really position ourselves in the middle of the ecosystem itself, and we do have a more comprehensive approach towards supporting the ecosystem, which means that we look first at, okay, what is missing in the ecosystem, what can we do as Vienna Business Agency, what are the universities already doing, and how can we collaborate with each other in order to leverage that network we have in our outreach, because accessing universities can have more burdens than accessing Vienna Business Agency, because our approach is not focused on startups per se, but entrepreneurs from all kind of background. And with the universities in Vienna, we're in a lucky position that most of the universities have their own entrepreneurial centers. So a lot of startups get already more connected to the startup ecosystem already before getting in touch with the Vienna Business Agency, I would say. But of course, our services, etc., are well known at the universities because we talk a lot with them.
Okay, question which is common for both of you. I'm just curious, from your experience, Karoline, what's the support you as a student and potential entrepreneur can get at the university? Are there some meetups or courses, startup competitions?
Yeah, so our university is kind of a bad example.
It's a medical university.
Because I know, like, some universities, like the technical one and also the economical one, they have like hubs for startups to go, and we don't. So that's why I looked for help somewhere else. So, for example, here, and also other tech incubators that just helped us along the way. With university, as soon as they found out we kind of work on something, they offered some help. So we found like a mentor of a university, but we don't really have like a conference or like networking events for startups. So I think this is something that we have to change at our university, actually.
Maybe your example will help a lot to change the situation for others who will come later. And I would like to encourage our audience to also ask questions. If you have some, you can just write it down in the application. Definitely, we have just a few minutes left, so...
Maybe I can just give one example where this collaboration between universities in order to really bring more awareness to the path of entrepreneurial career into the minds of students is working very well in Austria. There is a project called Joint Forces where the University for Natural Resources, the University of Economics, the University for Technology, and the University of Vienna are really working hand in hand in order to have throughout the year sessions where startups from different universities can join, meet, pitch, and also look out for talents. And I think because they are, all four of them are collaborating with each other, they're creating more and more visibility. And I hope at some point the medical university, which is a really great resource for startups in order to do their research, because it's a very important institution for the life science industry in Austria. I would say the medical university. I hope at some point they will onboard that as well.
Yeah, great you mentioned the joint forces, because this is a great example and source of inspiration for Brno ecosystem as well. Because bringing all universities and their entrepreneurial students together is a great idea in my opinion, and I see some faces who are actually responsible for entrepreneurship at universities here in Brno, so I hope that you will meet Dudu during networking in order to find out more about this great initiative. And Dudu, you mentioned in your presentation that you are also building diverse and inclusive startup ecosystem. So how specifically do you do this, and what's behind those two fancy words?
True, that they are really both fancy words. First of all, we do provide all our services in different languages in order to support people who really are new to the Austrian ecosystem in navigating the whole structure of the German-speaking market. So we have basic workshops, etc., where you can really navigate the first steps into entrepreneurship in 17 different languages. And here we try to stay very flexible in order to see, okay, where is the demand, which kind of communities are new to Vienna, and where we can. So when, for example, the war in the Ukraine happened, we started providing more service in the language, in the Ukrainian language, or back in a couple of years before that, we started doing all of this in Arabic, for example, etc. So we try to stay a little bit more flexible into the changing demographics of the city itself, and I think our outreach to the people is with a very low entry barrier, because sometimes when you talk about startups, this is something, we don't want to make entrepreneurship a luxury and an elite thing. Everyone who has an idea should have the possibility to access resources. So that's why we're very interested in also bringing the startup grant not only to the universities, but to a very diverse range of people, so that also people from not that high educational backgrounds have the opportunity to work on their dreams and their ideas. And we try to support them not only with money, but also with the networks we have, because being connected to the ecosystem is also not something very natural. So it's not something you're born into, and sometimes it's easier for people to connect with their peers and sometimes not. And Vienna Business Agency can give you a hand in accessing those networks a little bit easier.
About female entrepreneurship, and that's the diversity part. Yeah. So what specific activities do you offer to female would-be entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs? Yeah. And Karoline, for you, what support would you appreciate as a female founder?
So first of all, we do run since a couple of years a dedicated program for female entrepreneurs. It's called Founders Lab for Durchstarterinnen in German. It's a diverse program, so it's industry agnostic, but it's a women-only program. Then we have the female bonus for all of our grants. So whenever you apply for a grant with the Vienna Business Agency, except the startup grant. So if you have a project and you apply for a grant, if there is a woman in lead of the project, then you get a bonus in order to really enhance the careers of women in the field of innovation. So this is something we do since more than 10 years. And we also have a dedicated desk for women entrepreneurs to really reach out to someone to discuss their topics, because of course, entrepreneurship is entrepreneurship, but then again, female entrepreneurs do have other questions in addition to traditional entrepreneurs, maybe in terms of, okay, how do I do with maternity leave, etc. So there are some dedicated services in order to make the entry level lower. So. Great.
So Karoline, you as a female entrepreneur, what support would you appreciate?
So I think the suggested that you learn more what it's like to be like when you get into maternity leave or something like this, because I never really thought about it. But then on the other hand, I think what we lack is kind of mentoring specifically for women's needs, yeah, I don't know.
That's also great inspiration for us in Brno, since we also try to encourage more female entrepreneurs to enter the startup ecosystem. And to address some of the questions in the chat, so what's the major challenge of startup ecosystem in Vienna now, Dudu? Very briefly, because we have just a few minutes left.
It's not different than any other city. depending on whether you're a new starter or a scale-up, for the scale-ups, probably the money aspect is a challenge still. For people who are kicking off their entrepreneurial journey, it's lack of network, lack of knowledge sometimes. But I wouldn't say there are like specific challenges in Vienna. But of course, in general, maybe the risk of averseness of the German-speaking or the Austrian society itself could be a challenge we're trying to get over.
And actually, maybe another one, how do you support creative industries in gaming in Vienna?
So again, Vienna Business Agency has a dedicated department for creativity and business, and we as Startup Services, we do run specific programs, incubation programs for the creative industries.
And would you recommend very briefly some activity, so for those who want to get prominent in Vienna startup community? So is it Vienna Up?
Yes, definitely. Please check out viennaup.com, because if you're part of Vienna Up, then you can somehow meet and mingle with everyone within 1 week, everyone relevant from Vienna, but also beyond, because it's an international setup, obviously.
And last question goes to Karoline. So what's your message in the bottle for those students, PhD, postdocs, people from academia thinking about starting their business? So what would you recommend to them?
I would start with yourself. Something that I found out this year, but I'm glad it aligns with my life, is that you find your life's purpose and define what are your values. And if it's really like learning something new every day, or being independent, if this is important for you, then you can start a business. And secondly, then look for a co-founder. I think without my co-founder, I would have never been be at this point where I am now. And also look for mentors where they know the areas which you don't know. So where you lack expertise, look for mentors. And yeah, that's my advice.
Thank you so much for sharing your entrepreneurial journey and your know-how about services for creating diverse and inclusive startup ecosystems. So round of applause for our panelists, Dudu Gencel and Karoline Strobl.